Hello and welcome to another episode of Roots and Resilience, a leadership podcast by DBNC where we have conversations about leadership. We hope that these conversations build insightful and engaging perspectives as we journey in our lives. My name is Cristian Fox, and today we are joined by a very special guest, Janine Ayoub. Janine, thank you so much for being here today. How are you coping on this, what are we, Thursday morning?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm very, very happy to be here, honored. And everyone is being mindful of the weather and the heat,
Right, the heat.
and they're
Oof.
nagging about it. And I'm actually in my zone. I'm very comfortable with this weather.
Oh, that's
I'm
good.
very happy to have the heat.
The nice heat. So the AC. Are you enjoying the AC,
I
or
don't use
or
it.
you don't use it?
I
I
don't
turn
need it.
mine off sometimes in my room, which I know people are like, "Wait, what are you doing?" But I like the heat sometimes.
It fills me up with warmth and hope.
That's
Actually,
good.
yeah, I like it a
That's
lot.
awesome. So you're here today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and give the audience your spiel about what you do and who you are?
So my pronouns are she and her, and I'm identify as a Arab woman, an immigrant in Canada, and a professional in nonprofit. Uh, I've done this all my life, and also a very humor-oriented person. So that's a little bit about myself. I uh, love coffee and food and good mood
Oh
and
yeah,
puns,
the puns are good too.
apparently. And what else can I tell you? Um, I've moved to Canada recently. Prior to this, I used to live in Turkey, and I've been born, raised, worked in Lebanon, and I've moved around a little bit, but not for extended periods of time. And I I enjoy meeting people and communities from all around the world. I think this adds a lot to like my need for diversity, my need to meet persons who think differently and who challenge me and challenge my biases, my way of thinking, and I've had to change this a lot throughout my life. And that's it. What else do you want to know?
Yeah, so you talked about you lived in Turkey for a long time and then you moved here recently. Can you maybe talk a little bit about the experience and what it was like to immigrate to Canada?
At that time, I wasn't very happy. I don't know how much you know about Lebanon, but there was a series of unfortunate events that happened, starting with political turmoil, social and economic crisis, the inflation, the devaluation of uh, the money, and we went from having a 30% rate of poverty of around 30% to 80%. So literally everyone
Wow.
around me became poor. And we had a major explosion. I think it's the third biggest non-nuclear explosion ever. And it didn't destroy completely my house, but I survived with my partner, and that was my cue to leave the country. At the time, I was a country director of an international organization in Lebanon. So, in addition to having to take care of myself, my family, and my friends, I was taking care also of the programs, how to respond to all these crises, how to be proactive and assess the risks and take care of the staff and do everything. So I burnt out. And that's when I decided to come to Canada. I can now look back at it and see that it was an opportunity actually for me. But at the time, it wasn't very fun. And the process took a lot of time because of COVID and all the
right.
delays. So that's why we went to Turkey and we lived there. I learned the language. I ate very good food. I
Yeah.
traveled around. I took care of myself mainly and took the time to rest, recharge, energize, process what happened. And now I'm here.
So just so I understand, so you were in the process of moving here, but then you stayed in Turkey while that was going on, or?
Yes. So we
Okay.
applied to come here, I think it was end of 2020. And it was so slow, so nothing was moving. And that's why we went to Turkey.
Right.
Right, like it's Turkey and Lebanon are very close to each other, so it's like an hour of travel,
Wow.
very close to home. And the whole process of like finding a place to stay, being able to manage was easy. More challenging than coming to Turkey to Canada, but it was relatively easy. And I'm like we were able to change a very unfortunate situation for us to something that is a bit more rich and joyful. And I think somehow that's a big chance or privilege, as some would say it. But I think it's also like hard work and will, the will to find joy in things. And I like to speak about this a lot.
Yeah, I have to say though, like the idea that that was happening in your country, the poverty rate went up exponentially. You dealt with an explosion that you survived, but you seem incredibly positive, and it's just amazing to see how positive you are, given what's happened. And I honestly, I don't know that I'd be able to say the same if I was in that situation. So just that's incredible that you're positive, you're here. But I'm just so grateful that you're here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. It means a lot. It took time, and yeah, it took a lot of uh, will to we have like to be resilient, and we have a lot of things to say about the word resilient, especially in Lebanon, because being resilient for us is something that we do every day. So like on the day of the explosion, for example, 1 hour afterwards, it was really the whole city was destroyed. And 1 hour afterwards, you see young people, old people, everyone with their brooms on the streets. They started to clean. They started helping each other, moving people to hospitals, and like actually taking action to restore the city or to rebuild what happened and to respond to it. And that for me is how resilient people are. Maybe the concerns are if you're this resilient, then you adapt and you don't voice out your anger, your will to change the system from its root. Yeah, it's a debate. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I
Well,
know
like
that.
the debate in between being so resilient, but also being able to say, being upset about it, or
Yes. So should I adapt to the crises that are happening and survive, be able to thrive, be able to help myself, my family, the people around me? Or should I like be outraged by what's happening and try to change it instead of just adapting? And I think for me, resilient can mean both. It can mean like
Right.
you adapt and you survive, but you also try to change your situation, your reality. And you do whatever you can to make the two happen at the same time. It's not like being complacent or just accepting things that are happening to you from outside powers or like from external things beyond your control. It's also seeing where you have some control and where you can do things and actually doing it.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I think like the idea, yes, you should adapt to a situation and try to overcome it, but I think you should also be a voice for change. So I think what you're saying is absolutely true that you need to be like blend those two ideas. And it seems like you're doing that really well of you've adapted to the situation, but you're also making changes. And now you're here with us and you're here working with DBNC. And that's amazing. Can you tell us, just for our listeners and our viewers, what kind of work you're doing with us?
So I'm a fundraising consultant. I have been serving DBNC for over a year now, and I'm very, very, very proud and happy to be part of this team. I do a lot of work for outreach and business development and everything that is related to growing initiatives and working on our database of friends and supporters. So growing it, sustaining it, making sure we are close to those who believe in our mission. And maybe one thing that really I'm proud of is I remember like when I was in Turkey, I saw the name of DBNC and I was contacted by Priyanka and Prathi, and I went online and I read about it and I saw neighbors helping neighbors. And this is really beautiful. This is so much in how I reflect on things, how I was raised, and how I see things happening for the hope of the humanity, of humanity, if we want to call it like this. So being able to work in an organization that does this, that's really beautiful. And it's very rewarding for me to be able to help such a mission. And I'm here to build the network of people who are the neighbors helping the other neighbors.
Right. That's amazing to hear, and it's great to hear that you came across our organization and you thought, oh, this sounds like the work I want to do because it's what I believe in, and that's wonderful to hear. Do you remember what that process was like in terms of like how challenging was it for you to, I guess, apply to the position, and what did you have to overcome with that?
It was the whole process was new to me. So being a consultant and working like being self-employed and doing things like my own business development, my own marketing and things like this were all new to me in a sense. So I was learning as I was doing. And I had the support of friends and like the organization that first linked me to DBNC is the Good Partnership, and I'm a member of this organization as a fractional fundraising consultant. So I had a lot of coaching and support to be able to to develop the way I want to work and communicate about it to DBNC. And so basically, I took the time, first month, let's say, I took the time to really find my voice, my what would be something that I am passionate about, and at the same time that would help me survive and live financially, mainly. So and that was a good combination: consulting, DBNC, and doing the work I know how to do best with nonprofits.
Well, that's really cool. And you touched on, and that's one thing I wanted to get into, is that you're also a consultant and you essentially have your own business. And you talk a little bit about that, I guess the process of starting your own business and the challenges, especially being a woman, because, especially in Canada, it's definitely a man's world when it comes to business and employment and all that stuff.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah.
So the whole journey of becoming an entrepreneur or like starting this consulting business felt like a natural succession of fortunate events. Like I spoke before about the series of unfortunate events, and they all led to this a bit seamless move towards being self-employed, doing my own thing, and starting to do things that I would want to do for myself. And at the beginning, when you're faced with this, like with this option, again, I was in a process where I left home, I left work, I left everything. So I was overwhelmed by the opportunities and by the possibilities. So I can do anything now. What would I want to do? And it took a lot of time for me to figure out what I want to do, what I do best, what would be beautiful to have an impact on around me, and what would be things that would help me have a good life also, like I want to survive. So it's kind of like adapted to the Ikigai model of, it's a Japanese
Oh, can you
concept.
explain that? Because I haven't heard of that.
So it's a Japanese concept that like helps people to link between what they want, what they do best, their skills, what impact they want to have around them, and what would financially be something that helps them survive. The link between the four would be something that you thrive in and you are successful in doing and you enjoy it, and it helps you live.
Oh, I like
So
that.
I didn't know about this. So again, it was part of me discovering all those things, reflecting on myself, on my new self, now that I have been through a lot of life-changing events. And of course, the decision was, whatever I do, I want to do something that is impactful, that it has an impact in the world around me, in my communities, or in the communities where I live or with whom I interact. And that's primarily why I serve nonprofits, why I serve DBNC. And that's primarily also like the way I serve is I serve them to grow, be sustainable, help them find their voice and be able to tell their stories, be able to have a authority in where they are. So that process took 6 months.
So you did all that in 6 months?
Almost, yes.
That's amazing.
The administrative work, it was faster than what I expected here in Canada. But finding the right business model, the right image, the right everything, That took time. The challenges you asked about being a woman in business, that's something I still I still encounter every day. It's the imposter syndrome. I think we women, we have it a lot. And it's always thinking you're not good enough, or you not trusting your skills to be able to say that I am doing a good work, or that I am positive. So being tough on yourself, basically, and unfairly tough.
Like unfair, like you feel like you're not doing a good job when you know you're doing a good job.
Yes, but we
Right.
always have this
That
feeling
the
that I can do better, or I'm not doing enough, or I should have done it differently, or um, all of these. And my advice, based on what I would do for this feeling or this kind of thinking, um, is all about building new habits and new beliefs. So I like to write a lot. So I would write what I do every day. And over time, sometimes I take my agenda and I look back on things and I'm like, oh, just a month ago, I was in a completely different place. And now I'm here. So congratulating myself.
so you can see like all the things that you've accomplished.
I've seen things that I have accomplished. It's easy to forget those things, and it's easy to see the things that you haven't accomplished. But when you write them down and when you look back at them, and you're actually being very, let's say, gentle on yourself, that's something that helps me to always see my skills and always be confident about what I'm doing. Another thing, maybe for women, is we do juggle a lot of responsibilities and a lot of things on the personal, professional, that happen on the same day. I don't like surprises, but so I like to organize myself. I like to have a clear themed day. So today I have two big objectives, let's say, I want to do, and one, I want to read a book, let's say. So I don't always accomplish everything, but when I have these themes or these big, let's say, topics for the week, for the day, that helps me stay grounded and know that I am taking a step at a time towards where I want to go, or towards the things I want to achieve by the end of the month, or the tasks and everything. And it helps me juggle the noise around me, everything that I have to do that is not really a priority, or that is not an emergency. I try to filter them out and stay focused.
Yeah, that seems like the idea of like coming up with themes for the week. So what are some examples? Because I'm very intrigued by doing that as a way of, as you say, filtering out all the other noise and the things that are not essential.
Yeah. I want to first like some of the noises we have are also business related. So for example, the first thing they tell you when you become an entrepreneur or a consultant is you have to build your image. You have to be present online. You have to market yourself.
Right,
You have
that's a
to,
huge thing.
you have to post on LinkedIn very regularly, or like any channel you want to be present on. And this is a lot of pressure to keep up, always be present, always network and contact people. And it is important to be done, but at the same time, there's a balance. Like, I don't have to be present all the time. If I want to do it really right, it's overwhelming. It will overwhelm me, like always always needing to contact people, comment on their posts, write things that are genuine and that I can show my work in. So that's a lot to be done. And at the end, I decided like to filter all of those things. I do a little bit of everything. And I make sure that I speak enough about my work, but also I make sure that I do work and
Yeah.
that this work is valuable and is impactful in itself. So that's a little bit about like the different types of noises that I have seen in the past 2 3 months.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for talking about that because, yeah, the whole, like, I believe in social media. I know we have to promote ourselves, but it is really overwhelming. And this idea that, as you say, you have to be you have to be present, have to be seen, you have to post interesting, insightful things. You have to then comment on people's posts. And you're right, it's a lot. So I think it sounds like you've really like figured out the balance between doing that, but as you say, also getting your job done and doing what you're actually hired to do.
Yeah. And the theme days, one of those days is social media. So is everything related to the business itself. So on one of the days, I'm a CEO of my business. And the other days, I have the work I need to do. And so the themes could be meetings, self focus or reflection. And I try to have 2 3 hours per day where I block out everything and I just concentrate on writing, on doing things that need thinking and focus. And then there's, of course, the rest of the things we have to do to have a good life, like food and reading books or walking around, discovering a little bit about the area where we are living now. And so that would be things like I fill out my days with focus, meetings, food, and walking around, let's say.
Okay, I have to. I love food. So what? This is not like a critical, like, oh my gosh, mind blowing thing. But I have to know this. When you talk about food, what are you? What do you really enjoy? Like, what kind of foods are you looking forward to? Like during the week, when you're like, oh, I'm going to have this specific meal, and I can't wait for that meal to come up.
I don't know why it's always Lebanese food. Um, yeah, I don't. Maybe being an immigrant pushes you to miss things that you can easily have on a daily basis before, but that you didn't really have on a daily basis before. Um, but I like the freshness and the spices that we have in our food in Lebanon. I make it a point also to try out things that are different every week. So I try not to eat outside the house a lot.
Yeah, that's probably smart. Like yeah, it'll like damage your wallet for sure.
And my health.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Exactly.
Yeah, because but anything that is Italian, for example, that's a
yeah.
cheat meal for me. Burgers are also cheat meals for me. So yeah, 1 or 2 cheat meal per week, and the rest are things that are easily cooked at home and healthy.
So when you say Lebanese, like when you talk about that, do you cook a lot of it at home, or have you found a spot that also does a pretty good job?
We're doing it at home, and we found some good spots, but not this good. So I'm very lucky also to have to have my partner, so that we do things at home and we can plan the themed day. We also have a planner for the food.
Oh,
and
that's
what we want to
awesome.
cook every day. It's all very organized.
So then you don't have so if you have everything planned out, because I know with my partner and I, it's sometimes we know what we want to have, but other times like, hey babe, like what do you feel like? And she's like, I don't know. What do you feel like? So it seems like that solves that problem.
That solves it.
Yeah.
On Sunday, we put out everything we want to eat during this week. We do the shopping for this. And it kind of stops.
Yeah,
There's
that's great.
always going to be surprises, and we're good with surprises, but we try to limit it as much as possible. And I don't know if you've seen The Big Bang Theory.
Oh, I love The
Sheldon
Big Bang
Cooper.
Theory.
So with
Yeah.
like Sheldon, we try to limit the time for thinking about things that are trivial, and do like use this time to do actual work and do things that are useful for us.
Yeah, that seems really helpful. It sounds like it's like been very critical in that it helps you with your personal life. Like you're able to decompress, you can make a good meal, you can go for a walk, you can explore, but also during the day, it seems like it really helps you focus on, okay, what do I need to accomplish? So you're accomplishing everything.
Yep. It's maybe to go back to like the things that happened, these series of unfortunate events that happened, they were all beyond my control, and they were all beyond my area of influence and things that I can really do something about. So, but I can organize myself, and I can do things around me that are within my influence and within my area of expertise. So that's what I try to focus on. And as much as I can, that brings me also some comfort and a bit of increased well-being, being able to actually say, I want to do something and do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's something really, like, even for myself, not in the same situation, but there is something nice about being able to say, I want to do this thing and then accomplishing it. But then I just can't imagine what it's like when you're dealing with that situation with an explosion, coming to a different country. But it just seems like you're handling it really well.
Thank you. I hope so too. I think, So I think it's breaking it down to small things we can accomplish.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So that's like today. I remember like when I first arrived in Turkey, my to-do list, because I needed to have things organized and to do, included playing a game every day, doing an hour of Turkish, learning the language, walking around for 1 hour. These were things that were tasks and I needed to do. And that helped me process, that helped me accomplish things that are maybe trivial, but that helped me to actually to regain my energy, my confidence, and everything around it.
Yeah, I love that idea of just, breaking things down. Like, hey, an hour for walking, an hour, like playing a game every day. What kind of games did you play?
Sudoku.
I haven't played that or I haven't tried that in a long time.
Yeah. And then I played the Sim Build It City, something like this.
Sim City?
Build a city.
Yeah, Sim City?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
I used to try
I was
SimCity.
a very good builder. I built them a perfect city.
That's awesome. I always wanted to be the guy that would, build the perfect city,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I was just always start and I'd be like, this is too much for me. I can't do it. But that's really cool. I love that. Yeah. But again, going back to that breaking it down, I think it's so important just to figure out, okay, what do you want to do, and then just break it down. Makes a huge difference.
Yep. And take some things lightly. Like leave time for light things, happy things, small pleasures, things like this.
Yeah, small pleasures. I think, especially in the world we live, where there's just so much going on, and there's a lot of stress. There's just enjoying the small pleasures. I think is so important to help you. For me, it helps me wake up every morning and come to DBNC to do good work because we're able to enjoy the small pleasures.
Exactly. We're able to, pause, have a small pause, like a 5-10 minutes at least per day, where I do nothing and I just look around at if there are some birds, I would look at them.
Oh, I love birds.
Me
Birds
too.
are so pretty. I love photographing birds, but they don't cooperate.
No,
And they're
they're
very
always
frustrating.
moving around.
Yeah, they're always flying around. It's like, hey, let me just snap a shot of you.
Please. Yeah, so I used to own birds.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I like birds a lot. But I don't have pictures of them because they didn't stop moving. But they were the birds that, nightingale, you open the cage, they fly around, they go for 2-3 days, and then they come back. So
So they would always come back then.
they would come back. Yeah. So, so that was the pauses, the small pauses I have. Yeah. And doing funny things.
Okay, what kind of funny things?
Like I was at the time I started practicing some stand-up comedy.
Oh, that's awesome. I would definitely want to hear it one day.
One day, yeah, I will.
I won't put you on the spot now, but that's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's yeah. So just being silly with puns, with laughing about things that happen that are too surreal to happen. So we laugh about it. And yeah, I like this sarcasm, dark humor.
Oh, dark humor is great. Not always appropriate, but
One day.
But it's always good.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that's amazing. I love all those things, and the idea that you're doing stand up is just so cool to me. And you're fundraising. Now, I want to switch gears to something a bit more serious. Talk more about fundraising. What kind of trends are you seeing in the whole world of fundraising, and that maybe you see happening in the future?
So there's a lot of trends and a lot of things that changed since the pandemic, with the recession, with also like the demographics of who can now become a donor. It's not always the wealthy or the people who have a lot of power, let's say like this, who are now considered donors. We also have the Gen Z, the Millennials, and
Right.
everyone who's growing up and finding their place in the world, and they have amazing views of this world that is challenging the norms and challenging how we see things. So we need to see trust. We need to see transparency, authenticity. And something that we feel and we want to change, and we partner on this mission, so that we can give. The future looks a bit shaky. I don't know, with the
Right.
rise of the AI and artificial
Yeah, the AI stuff
intelligence.
is wild.
It is having an impact on the fundraising world, on the nonprofit world. So some things would become eventually easier to do, like research or writing, but like the ethical considerations of this and how we are using this revolution of these trends to but keeping also the human touch and the human aspect of it, like the stories we're telling about the people, the clients we serve and the people we work with, those are genuine stories, and the beauty about them is that these stories are from the heart and they're genuine stories. It's not the machine who wrote them. The machine can tell us what the structure of it would be, of the story would be, but eventually the story itself, the feelings, the emotions, the impact, the change that happened in those people's lives, this is something that will never be replaced and that we need to keep as a human, as possible.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. Like the idea that, okay, AI can do a lot, but there's still the human element that we don't want to lose. Now, I want to go back to something you said a bit earlier about dealing with Gen Z and millennials. How has your approach, like, how has that changed the approach and the way, you're communicating? Because you talked about transparency. I just was curious about that.
So first, like the channels, choosing where we want to be and where we want to communicate, and then choosing how we want to communicate and what we want to say. But first, like the channels, it's really important to be where our audience is. And so focusing on the impact of what, we're in DBNC, so let's talk about DBNC. So the impact we have on the clients' lives, supporting them in getting settled or finding an opportunity for mental well-being, for employment, for housing. So those are a real impact that we can see and that we can talk about and that we amplify, because these are what build trust and the transparency. And also, like, saying what are the challenges that we are facing, so being transparent about those. So we're not being able to, for example, and I'm saying anything here, we're not being able to help 100 clients per day because our system is not strong enough. That's being transparent about what we're doing and about what we're facing. And that's something that the Gen Z and the millennials would appreciate knowing about and helping in also, if they can.
Yeah, I think transparency, the way you describe it, is just being honest with, what are we struggling with? What, problems are we facing here at DBNC? It's something I always talk about with my clients, where, because I run the mediation program, and I will often say, when parties agree to mediation, it's very effective. But they appreciate that I tell them that unfortunately a lot of times parties won't agree to it because it's voluntary. So as you say, it's good, and especially, and how do I say this? But what I love is that millennials and Gen Zers are really, really interested in the transparency and just being honest. And it sounds like you're approaching it well by just saying, "Hey, look, this is what we're struggling with, but here's what we can do."
Yep. And you can be partners with us.
Exactly.
Yeah. They're also problem solvers.
Yes,
Gen Z
they're
millennials.
like they have. Like we talked about social media earlier. The way Gen Zers can handle social media is mind blowing to me. I struggle with it all the time, but they really know their stuff. And if you can utilize that, especially for something like DBNC where we want to be out there, I think, yeah, like they're problem solvers for sure. So you're talking a lot about, fundraising with DBNC and really making that happen. But why do you think people should consider supporting DBNC, and why do you think it's so important?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. Thank you. So I think for me, I talked about like the neighbors helping neighbors and how this is really a motto that one would have in life. But like when I came one day and I sat in the waiting room here at DBNC, I saw how everyone is like a busy bee going
Mm-hmm.
around, how people would arrive, they immediately get greeted and get like supported. You go to this area, or we will come and sit with you in a little bit. And you see, you kind of see the trajectory or the journey of the clients at DBNC from when they arrived, the worry or the look on their face, they don't know what awaits them,
Mm-hmm.
to the time they leave and how they leave with like they feel stronger, they walk more confidently, they know what they know what they're going to do next. They have been given instructions. I cannot hear it, I cannot see it, but I can see the transformation, I can see the impact. And it's something that is invaluable. Like everyone I met here, everyone I talked to is a genuine person who cares and who want to make the lives of their neighbors a better lives. So I think there's a lot of organizations that can do this work, but very few organizations that can do it consistently, efficiently, and in a very innovative way. Look, the ideas and the ways we at DBNC, we see a problem and we directly devise a solution for it, like the community care closet.
Mm-hmm.
So the way it was launched in a very short period of time, when we saw that there are bigger demands and bigger needs among our clients for items to help them get by during their month, either the month of their arrival to Canada or their month of them, for example, looking for a job. And the way the closet was set up and organized and made to be serving people in a very humbling and empowering way, in a way. So I love how the team came up with the idea. Like, it's the same way I go on Amazon and I order items. I can come to the community care closet and order whatever I need for this month. And that's very much a dignified and like culturally sensitive way of doing work that is very special to DBNC. And I would love to spread this around and talk about this more.
That's great. No, thank you for sharing. And it's nice to hear, because we are proud of that, and we're especially proud of Megan, who, you might recognize that name because she was on our podcast a little while ago, twice actually, with the community care closet. And but yeah, it's great. And it's really cool that you were able to see that transformation that happens with clients, where they come into the building, they're a bit nervous, they're not sure what to expect, but then they come out feeling, okay, I have a solution to whatever I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
And it's really wonderful that you were able
Powerful.
to see that. But now you're also part of the team and you're making it happen.
Yep. And and I have hope because of the things I know works, and I know that we've been working on in DBNC. That gives me hope, and that gives me something to look for. And I'm very proud to be part of the team again.
Yeah, no, we're so happy that you're part of the team. One of the things I'm always curious about is just people that influenced you, and you're so positive, you are funny, and you really do seem to want to help everyone. Now, I imagine that there must be a couple of people in your life that are super influential that help make you who you are today.
Yeah. The typical answer at the start, my parents,
Mm-hmm.
of course. Actually, like my father, for example, like he has always a way of coming out of difficult situations with a joke or with a smile, and I think I took a lot from him. I don't, in this way, like seeing the positive uh, in everything and learning from things, but also taking things in a very humor, um, humoristic way that I take on from my father. And with my mom, it's the giving and being always generous. And like if I tell her your shirt is nice, she will tell me take it. So so that's a bit of my main influence. I watched a movie 20 years ago now. I'm gonna start letting on what age I am. Around, yeah, maybe 20 years ago. It's Amélie Poulain. It's in
Oh.
French. And it speaks about the life of a girl, Amélie, who slowly discovers that she can make the world around her a better place and starts coming up with strategies and small games to make things around her fair and enjoyable for the people that she likes. And at the beginning, she's very much in her own space, in her own world, but then she starts to get like she stops being scared and starts getting like the sense of adventure and life and not putting herself out there and showing up and doing things. And that's where magic happens. And I think this influenced me a lot in the way I used to be very shy. I don't know if it shows. And with time, I learned how to do small things, enjoy the small pleasures, and also think about ways to make things around me a little bit nicer, a little bit gentler. And I believe that being kind and empathetic is a strength, is not a weakness, especially in leaders. So, and I learned this 20 years ago from Amélie Poulain.
Oh, that's really cool. I want to check that out now and
Yeah.
see that movie. And that's great. That's just really wonderful. And it sounds like you're able to take the best qualities of your parents and combine them. You have the humor and the positivity from your father, but also the caring from your mother. And then it's also really cool because I'm a big movie guy. And so there are movies and things that I've seen 20 years ago that have stuck with me that like have completely shaped who I am. So it's really cool to talk about that.
Yeah. And you start seeing for me, this is where it started. But then you start seeing around you like the leaders or the friends, the people you meet who are in their own way heroes. So they make things happen. They make nice things happen to those around them. The other day I was walking around and I saw a guy just stop and get a sandwich out of his bag and give it to someone who's in the streets. So, and he it just continued walking, and there was a very selfless, small, little thing that makes a difference, and that makes when I see those things around me, this gives me a lot of inspiration, a lot of strength to say that despite everything, the world is good and we're going to a good place. And it's us, neighbors, sticking together and yeah, doing simple, beautiful things to help each other.
Yeah, I love that, and it's great. Yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like there's a lot of times where we come to work and we do what we can to help people, but then we don't in our private lives. So to see that there's moments like that you describe of someone just selflessly giving their sandwich to someone who is in need, I think is amazing, and it's wonderful to see that you're able to take that inspiration and apply it to what you do every day.
Or try to.
Yeah, or try to, exactly.
Yeah. It's, it's the journey and the intention, and it creates impact. If we're honest, we're genuine, we're open to others.
And we can get it
Yeah.
done. I think you're right. Like it's just like open honesty and just being genuine. I think is so critical.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm making things like look simple, but in reality, I know there's a lot that happen, that there is the noise, and that are things that oh, would get to us. So I don't wake up every day very positive.
Right, because they're human.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
human, and things happen. But yeah, a moment to pause, a moment to maybe to listen to a podcast that inspires you, or to do small act around you. That's that means that you are gonna have a brighter day, a brighter week, maybe.
Yeah, I like a good, especially a good podcast. Like, I listen to one all the time, and I love the people that do it. And it's like I always feel good when I'm listening to them, and it just sets up the week. Like I feel better about the week. And even on days where yeah, you're right, we're human. We're not going to wake up every day fully positive and like, oh, it's going to be a great new day. Sometimes it's a struggle,
Yeah,
but having those moments that you can look forward to really do make a difference.
exactly. Being inspired by people's story. So
Yeah.
storytelling and like seeing the stories. When we meet people and when we talk to those around us, we discover that there's a lot of inspiration, there's a lot of good, there's a lot of things I can relate to, or maybe not relate to, but understand and aspire to, or push me to change my thinking. I, yeah, I think I want to encourage those around me to do these small transactions with each other, these connections, this like genuinely putting myself out there.
Yeah, I like like the small genuine interactions that you talk about are so great, and like this idea that yeah, you can talk to someone who's completely different and you can relate to them on one level, but then they also might have something else about them that you're not familiar with or that you don't relate to personally, but you learn about through speaking with them. And that really is so powerful. Now, one of the things we have to ask, we always ask all of our guests this, is if you could go back in time, and now mind you, I'm a nerd, so I always think about time travel, like, oh, if you go back in time, is that going to mess up the present? But let's say you go back in time, you're not messing up the present, everything's going to work out just as it did, but what would you tell yourself, and specifically your 16-year-old self?
Without messing the present.
Yeah, without it doesn't. It's a separate
It will
timeline.
mess it up a bit. It will mess it up.
It wouldn't.
I-
Let's just assume it's not going to. You're able to contain the
Yeah,
the
yeah.
temporal. I love that you're thinking about this. Most of the guests just kind of go, "Okay, I'll answer the question." I love this. This is great.
At least I will mess up my future.
No, it wouldn't mess up your future. Even though you tell yourself it might. You know what? Okay, let's say this. You give yourself like, what advice would you give yourself that allows you to get where you are, but maybe I don't know, maybe gives you a couple of nights
Yeah.
like where you're not. Maybe you had a couple of restless nights as a kid or something, and then this advice will help you feel a little bit better about
Yeah.
things.
It definitely would be to be more kind and gentle on myself. So I've always tried to be kind to people around me, and I'm not always kind to myself. Like forgiving the mistakes I do, or thinking that I am good enough, or it leaves a lot of room for regret and for like self-blame and shame, and yeah, I would like to remove this. So if I see my 16-year-old self, I would tell her, be gentle, be kind, and forgive yourself. And love yourself.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think that's essential because as kids, we often are kind to ourselves. We beat ourselves up, and I think just having that permission to be kind to yourself, understand that you're going to make mistakes, but that you're also doing a really good job and that you do great things, I think is essential. And hopefully doesn't mess anything up. It's not supposed to, but that just seems like advice that everyone needs to, especially, if you're watching this now, if you're 16-year-old or 16 years old, take that advice. Just be kind to yourself and know that you're doing a good job and be gentle. You're not going to be perfect, but be gentle.
Maybe also like something I repeat to myself all the time. I am doing the best I can in the circumstances I am in. So that helps me be kinder, be gentler. I am doing the best I can in the circumstances where I am in. That's it.
Yeah, I like the circumstances part because there's a lot of times where, you are in circumstances that just you can't control and you have to adapt to them. And that's essential. And I think that's really good advice for people to hear because they might think, well, I can't control this. I'm just going to give up. But it's like, no, you can't control it, but you can adapt.
And do whatever you can.
Yeah, do whatever you can. Exactly. Thank you, Janine, for being here today. It's been a great conversation. I learned a lot.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll definitely have to have you back for round 2.
Ooh, excited. Okay. Thank you so much for having me. And excited for round 2 if it happens.
Definitely.
Have a
Okay.
good day.